My role was as Jed, a slave in the Carolinas who has come to the realization that he's got to find a way to protect his family, that in slavery, he can't take anymore, that every day his family is in peril, their lives are in peril. And just by chance, he realizes that there's a way out that doesn't involve a hazardous trek um, up through enemy lines or hundreds of miles, that there's a place he can go and have his family safe, that he believes he can make it to. And he gives up everything and risks everything for that opportunity. And it's based on a reality that existed. It's based on a history that's never told. It's based on pulling from the reality of the native and African working together, and even being sometimes confused about who was who. And we have that today, where we have natives with black ancestry and blacks with native ancestry, and Dawes roles that have people with no native ancestry listed. So there was a convergence of cultures there in a time of angst and terror, because slavery was a time of terrorism.
Mike, tell me a little bit about what was the story basically about. I think you touched on it a little bit, but what was the basis? What was the story about? It was called. Tell me the title and wait till I get
Okay,
off camera. But
sure.
what was this story all about?
RiceWood Creek, the story in and of itself, was about a slave who finds out that there's a place that he can take his family where natives would be strong enough to protect them, where blacks and natives had joined forces against oppression. And we see this in the reality, the Seminole Wars of Florida. We see this in the reality of the rice, the coastal areas of the Carolinas, where people were made, who were slavers, were afraid to go, where you could live relatively free, where even though there were massive rebellions, there were those wars. The Seminoles had three wars. So we see a reality that is just not told, a history that's hidden, that we can all, if you're a person of African ancestry or Native ancestry, you can grab hold and show this to your children and say, look, this is who we really are. We weren't the smiling, buck-eyed, um, or cowardly natives that they portray in those old movies. We weren't just staying there to be fodder for cannons. We were fighters, and we were winners as well.
And I want you to, if you could, Michael, stick with RiceWood Creek because
Okay.
your family um, did have help, and I want you to talk about the
Hmm.
character in the story who was authentic um, Black Indian, but stick with RiceWood Creek and talk about those challenges with and number one, I mean, we're talking about the maroon settlement, so I want you to stick with the family,
Hmm.
stick with the movie, and talk about what happened within that time frame. What happened in the movie? So if you could just
Right.
stick with RiceWood Creek,
Hmm.
um, and remember, and you can remember some of the footage that was there.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And there was a scene, and just to refresh your memory, I think I'm going to show that scene just so that you can relate to it. And that's the other thing. Talk about the scene because I'm going to show this footage, Michael. So I
Mhm.
need you to talk about why was she so upset
The
and what
daughter learning how to read.
right, and talk
Right.
about that number one, and then which was it? Where was it?
Jed
This
confronting
scene
the
here,
master.
right? This scene here. What was it like? The locations that we had, etc. And there was another one, and this was the most powerful one right here. So we're talking about, so just stick with the movie
Hmm.
that you were in and talk about those challenges. And you can talk about, because I'm going to show, number one, I'm going to show the one with Nettie and your actor wife and arguing and how dangerous it was, for you. You all were caught reading in the forest, and the mother was just absolutely petrified, as you remember. And then you can talk about this scene, which I love this scene. I think everybody loves this scene. I remember this scene for days, and talk about that scene. But just stick with the movie. I know analogies are really good, but I don't have footage for, for
I
the
understand.
analogy for the Seminole and Florida and all that stuff.
I
So,
get it. I get it.
okay. All right. So, stick with your role in the movie and talk about some of the challenges. And I'm going to,
Mhm. Now, the character of Jed, he's faced with a dilemma. He finds out that his daughter has learned how to read, and at that time, that could be deaf, or you could literally have just terrible things happen to you.
but Mike, remember, you were the one that was teaching her how to read. Remember that scene where you were teaching her?
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so you can
Okay.
talk. Wasn't so you're the one that was teaching her to read, and it's okay, man. This was like 30 years
Yeah,
ago.
I know. I'm trying to remember everything.
I know. So you were actually, and it's okay, but you were actually that was really
It's
crazy.
my fault.
No, no, it's fine. It's 30 years. Come on, no. I'm the one that's flipping.
That's what I'm going to say. It's his fault.
So it's fine. It's fine. So what I want you to do is you were the one that you were caught. There was, I don't think I have that footage. I do have the footage that I'll probably edit in with your conversation.
Hmm.
But talk about why, there was a scene, say your wife was petrified, but you were the one that was teaching her how to read.
Hmm.
And I remember that little place that we were at. That was so sweet. Stephen McCarthy, who was our cinematographer at the time, he was the one that actually found that location, and it was perfect. And we had
Hmm.
I think they built tracks around it so that it could be like a panorama shot. But talk to
Hmm.
that, and it's okay to stop, and but just give me 3 seconds, and then you
Okay.
can start. Okay.
Now, what Jed has done is he's taught his daughter how to read, and his wife has found out about it, and they get into an argument because at that time, someone learning to read of color, a black slave, enslaved person, I should say, your life is at risk. So now, in order to protect his family, he's got to find a way out where this knowledge that he's imparted won't become the catalyst that destroys his family. And that's when he finds out from Lone Wolf, a native, who informs him that there's a place called RiceWood Creek that he could go with his family if they risk everything, that he could be safe if they could just get there. And from that moment that he finds out that some place exists, it's like being told that there's a heaven and you can get there. That's his only goal. He also has to deal with repercussions of his actions when he confronts his master, and different things in terms of with his family life, and just being that strong male makes him a target. Being that person that has an intellect that knows how to read, that understands what's going on, he becomes almost a Nat Turner figure within the microcosm of this story. So it lends itself to a lot of different questions about what would you do in a situation like this. Um, is Ricewood Creek someplace that is safe in actuality? All these things, these questions that you would have if you were in his position, the film makes you go through that emotional roller coaster and takes you along with them. And it's again a history that hasn't been spoken of, and that's what makes it such a powerful thing. It makes the scene so powerful because it becomes that humanizing effect on the characters. They're more than just the paper cut or the kind of copy kind of thing you see that in a lot of films about slavery, their lives are more than just yassa, nasa, and all that. They're human beings with intellect, with feelings, and with a desire for a future that's beyond being enslaved and the will to get it.
There was really powerfully said. If you can speak to, thanks, Mike, for that. If you can speak to what was it like for this scene here, and I'm just going to pretty much show it. Um, this to me was a powerful scene. What was going on in that scene? And wait for at least 3 seconds before you respond. Talk to me about that 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 connection with Lone Wolf, and how that scene came about. Because I remember it was, it was actually in the woods. The vice president of the Peabody Society was there, and you couldn't hear anything because it was so powerful. It was a moment in history where we just don't watch movies about the fact that enslaved Africans and Native Americans and Black Native Americans got together and escaped to this beautiful maroon settlement. And this is the telling of, and just talk about that scene and what it was like for you as an actor to actually, we were cutting ground. It was a thesis film, but we were actually breaking mold. And, now the cowboy bass is coming out and all this other stuff, but talk about that moment because it was a powerful moment for all of us. Give me 3 seconds to get out of here. Um,
Well, in this scene, I think it's so intense is because there's a level of incredulity that Jed has. He has to see if this person is serious, if he's telling the truth. He knows him to be a man of honor, but the native lone wolf, again, has an autonomy that Jed does not have. He can come and go. Jed can't. So he has to figure out, is this just another person that would end up enslaving my family? Is what he telling me the truth because it means the lives of my family? So the look on his face is serious. He has to size up this person. It's life and death. So I wanted to bring that to the role, that I'm not just going to be smiles and like, oh, let's do this. I believe everything you say. In my demeanor, it's like, if I die because of this lie, I'm not going to be the only one. If I trust you fully about this, it's a life and death decision, and it's on my shoulders, and the repercussions from it are my fault. So it's a chance.
Absolutely. That was really cool. And just as, and I'll stay on camera a little bit, um just to kind of set up for the our final scenes that I want to talk about, because then I want to talk about your role outside of being an actor. But in that, when you were actually saying those words, because I'm not sure, Michael, if you knew that there were maroon settlements prior to the film, and reading the words, and I think we did a little improv as well, because I think me as the writer, actually we co-wrote. I mean, but we'll talk about that. But saying those words, what was it like in the moment of saying those words? And I'm going to get off camera right now.
I think in the moment, I kind of left thinking about the script, and that's what it was. It was, I put myself into that moment. At that moment, I am Jed. I'm not the actor playing Jed. I am him. And I found that happening on more than one occasion where I was supposed to be angry and attack someone. And I think I put a little bit too much force into what was supposed to be a fake push. And I believe the actor flew about 2 or 3 feet backwards. And I scared myself as the emotional uh, impact of that role. And had to pull back and say, look, wait a second, this is an actor. Pull back a little, pull back. And I think a lot of us started to get a little emotional about the scenes and the roles that we were playing, because it has so much impact when you're when you're putting yourself into that emotional state of someone whose life is at risk, and you're taken away from all things of modernity, because we went into the woods, we went into the mountains, and after a while you forget that there's buildings just less than 30 miles away. You're there, and this is starting to feel real. So that's how it was. We were putting ourselves in that time period, in that place, and we had to readjust sometimes and come back to reality, because we started to drift away a little bit. And just the impact that we're playing some, maybe a character that's renamed, but a situation that may have happened more often than we believe.
Wow, that's cool. I was going to just let you go, but yeah. And I think the scene, talk to me about the scene with Jay Butler. I don't have that with me, but that's at the point where you and Lone Wolf, it was a small plantation. And a lot of folks think that many of the plantations, there were hundreds of slaves, but that wasn't the case. In this case, it was a small plantation. It was only you and your wife and your daughter. And occasionally they would hire out from other plantations if seasonal work. So it was a small plantation, but you overpowered your master. And do you remember that scene with
Yes,
him and
yeah.
his wife? And that's when, right after, when Nettie and Annie were attacked by a slaver, and you just had enough of that, and you said, no, 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 this is not gonna happen on my watch. So talk to me about that scene with Jay Butler and his wife. And I think that was the scene where you kind of went, you were Jed at that point.
Mm.
And it was you and Lone Wolf, because you said, screw this. He kept telling, go back to work, go back to work. And my daughter and wife are being attacked by a slaver. Hell no. So talk to me about that particular incident. And I will be off screen right now.
Well, in the scene where Jed confronts the master, and again, um, we had already gone over the backstory and the fact that it was a small plantation. Basically, it was Jed's family doing the bulk of the work. You get close and you start to feel an understanding, or a kind of, the people that you're practically living together, eating the same food pretty much on these small farm plantations. Um, when Jed sees that his child and his wife are in danger, they're being attacked, he understands that confronting the master and putting hands on him, even to protect his family, is a death sentence for him. There's no going back from that. So he has to make, in that moment, he's making a choice. I'm going to die from this. I may save you in some way, shape, or fashion from the worst things that could happen, but I'm probably going to lose my life because of this. Because of that knowledge of RiceWood Creek, there's a way out. There's a way that they can keep his family secure and they can all live free. And so there's a lot of, again, we all lost ourselves a little in that part. And I believe the actor playing the master at the time was a very good actor. He got a little nervous. I think he said I think he mentioned to me that there was a look in my eye. He was like, wait a second, does he remember this is acting and we're not actually doing this? I think he got a little nervous. But that scene was when we were all literally in that moment. And a lot of it, we scripted a lot, but a lot became just an improv from the emotion. And Deborah allowed us to continue a little bit to get everything on in that footage and to get the impact and the emotion and the pathos across to the audience. And that was really special.
Awesome. I had to let that resonate. Yeah. And the last question I have, just for you playing the role of Jed, was, the final scene, which was you all finally got to RiceWood Creek. So talk to me about that, because I mean, and one thing that I remember your actor wife saying, Wendy, she who played Annie, and I remember she said, "Girl, I didn't know this was going to be so physical because you all were
Yeah.
running." And you can,
Or what I remember about that is
yeah.
that we were wearing those period clothes, and
That's right. That's
it is
right.
not easy, and you have to
Yeah.
protect those clothes because
Right.
that's art just in and of
Right.
itself, the
Because
costuming.
we had to turn those clothes in at
Yeah,
the
we
end,
had to
the end of the
return
show.
those, and
And
I'm
they
running,
were
and these
donated and they were free.
period pants are tight. I'm wearing skinny jeans basically, and I'm not a skinny guy. Any type of
Yeah.
I'm not really a skinny guy. And I'm running across that field in skinny jeans, and it's a painful experience. So I was really in pain.
So wait a minute. So hold that thought. So
So
talk about.
it was a relief.
But I hear you. But talk about that because I'm trying to think of all the scenes that were in the movie. But talk about that scene, the fact that, and do talk about the period clothing once I come out of this particular scene. But talk to me about the period clothing, the running. Say that I had no idea as an actor would be running so much, and the period clothes, and then talk about the fact at the end where you all finally did. I mean, it was a happy ending that
Mhm.
you finally got to Ricewood Creek. Give me 3 seconds, and I'm out.
Now, the funny thing about this is that we're in period clothing. We had got clothes donated from um, different sources, like the 54th and the I believe it was the women of the 54th as well. The I think they called themselves the colored ladies. So we had this clothing that was period clothing that's art in of itself, and we're running literally through this movie. We were running from freedom. We were running to freedom. The whole movie, we're running across fields. We're running in the hills, the blue hills. We're literally running to freedom, and we're tired. We're actually, and I'm a big guy, but I'm basically wearing skinny jeans, running across the field, trying to survive. I'm trying to survive these clothes. But so when you see us coming to RiceWood Creek, coming to freedom, that joy in our faces is real joy. We have run pretty much across half the state during the filming of this. So we really feel like we've come to the freedom. We made it. Did we make it? I'm running through the woods thinking, oh, is there a real place? It's gotta be because I've been doing all this running. So that elation that you see is not acting at that point. That's true elation. We are really happy. So there's a lot that went into to make it authentic. Um, the firearms that were used, the horses, the clothing that we used, everything to make this a true period piece was utilized. And that is another amazing thing about the film. The budget we had was not $1 million Hollywood budget. This was done by a community that engaged in the story, that wanted to see it made, and they supported us. They supported us with their artistic efforts, with their sewing efforts, with their donations, with their time. And that meant more than having $1 million budget, because everybody that found out about what we were doing was like, how can I be a part? How can I engage? Let me support you in some way. And 99.9% of the people were who what really made this come together. Their support, their love for the project, and the just the whole feeling that we all had in doing it, and it engaged everybody that came across it. So it was a win situation. We didn't need $1 billion box office, even though that would have been nice. We had got $1 billion worth of support from the community. That was everything.
Wow. That is so cool. Thanks for that, Michael. And the last part of this interview um, is one you were pretty much endeared um, with with me as as the filmmaker. And I don't think I could have made it without you, because I remember every night coming home to Akron Street, and we had equipment because we had the school equipment, the film cameras. We didn't have no video equipment. We had film equipment, okay? And we
Hmm.
had the Nagra back in the day, the steam back. I mean, it was the old school. It was in the 90s. Come on.
Hmm.
So, talk to me about your role outside of being Jed and the relationship that you had with me. And of course, I started to say third party, but anyways, the relationship that you had with me, and you talked about people coming together. There was Fair Foods and Shabella
Hmm.
and the woman who donated. I mean, it was just so much. But talk to me
Hmm.
about the role, if you remember. Do you remember your role? Because I mean, I know.
I do remember. I do remember.
Okay, okay. So I don't want to be, because it was funny because I talked to I'm going to have Professor Sam Kaufman. He was the chairperson of the film
Hmm.
department at BU, and God bless him. So I asked him if he would mind being interviewed. So he said, "Oh yeah, Deb, I have no problem." And then and then he said, "Can you refresh my memory?" He said, "I was a chairperson and I saw thousands of thesis film. Can you, I'm thinking everybody knows, oh, kind of RiceWood Creek, come on, the Boston Globe, the Herald, everybody did a front page story. But please talk to me about your role,
Okay.
because it was really important. Give me
Hmm.
three, give me some time.
The thing about the role that I remember is that we had to wear different hats. Um, we would come home tired, getting all the equipment, bringing it back to Deborah's home. Her daughter was there.
Hold on, hold on. I want you to say, so we're real clear about this. You're going, yes, to Deborah's house, but say the role that I played outside of being the
Okay.
actor. Yeah,
Okay.
just so it's clear. Okay.
Okay. The thing I remember most is that the role that I played outside of the acting um, required wearing a lot of hats, and it required working with a lot of people. We had we would come back from a shoot with all the equipment, having broken down everything, bringing it back to Deborah's house. Her daughter was there, would help with everything. We would look at the script, make some script changes that were necessary, and we would have the clothing that we would get. Again, I mentioned from the 54th, but we also worked with Fair Foods, a nonprofit organization that provided food for the actors that were on set, and they provide food for a lot of the communities. It's to this day in Boston. Shabella Aaron, who was number 2 in the world of female karate, and went on to work with Billy Blanks in Hollywood, was one of the people that was instrumental in helping us get things together. There were I was coming from Morehouse, coming from Roxbury Community College as a teacher there. Um, I hadn't heard about the things that Deborah was presenting to me, even with that background, the HBCU. A lot of this wasn't taught at that time, so she was really breaking ground, and just that whole feeling that we were doing something special, and we were giving to a project that went beyond just our local community, but would have some kind of impact uh, on education. Just from everyone that heard the story, they wanted to investigate more, and it was something that was growing. We got front page Herald, front page Globe newspaper in Boston. Um, so you felt the euphoria, you felt the rush that, oh, this is important. Let's keep on pushing this. Let's keep on doing this no matter what. We're going to overcome this and make this film happen. And that was the feeling that I got whenever we came back tired, and just, even though we had more work to do at late at night, we went at it full force, and we're up again in the morning the next day doing our regular jobs and then scheduling the next shoot. That's how it was. It's really a legacy of, or work of love and stick to itiveness, if you think about it.
That's pretty awesome. It just brings back so many memories, Michael. So many good memories. I can't believe 30 years from now, that's why this is going to be such a slam dunk. Because can you imagine producing a thesis film and getting so much media press and coverage, and the community, as you said, the New England community embraced us. I got citations from the governor. At the time, it was Governor Weld,
Mm-hmm.
uh, from the House of Representatives. We also had, for the city of Boston, we got Key to the City, RiceWood Creek Day from Mayor Menino at that particular time. It was tremendous. It was unbelievable. And I was just like, I just wanted to finish the film and then get a deal and produce a full length feature, a professional film. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my goal, and to bring everybody
I
with
remember.
me that was in the film. So that was pretty awesome. So the last comments, Mike, I'm going to ask
Mm-hmm.
for you is just your own personal uh, feedback as to how did you feel being in the film, and how did it impact your life?
Mm. Well, the impact that this had was opening me up to how large in scope our history is. Um, the the awakening in my brain was I have to find out more, and I want to find about us from a global perspective, from natives to Africans to now what they call 80 American African descendants of slaves, or all these things. The black history, even though they give us only a month in this country to understand about black history, once you do understand it, you see that 80% of the world's history is black history. It, and I won't get into that, but it's huge. And I would bring that into the classroom as a teacher. I would bring that into my art as an artist and my music as a musician. Uh, it just informed a lot of the things that I was able to do in working with the AMOP, African American Master Artist in Residency Program, and working with the Dorchester Artists Collaborative. I'm going to drop some names. They were really instrumental in Roxbury Community College here in Boston, the only HBCU in this state. And I went out to work in the suburbs of Lexington with privileged kids, and that in a mansion on a hill, and I'm teaching them about the history of Africans and their own histories. So they're going to find out everything from the Irish coming here because of the Great Potato Famine, to the Italians, to the Greeks, to the Armenians, to everything, because there is an interconnectivity, natives as well. No one people, personages, is all of history, and no one people did everything in all of history, despite what some may want you to believe. And history isn't about legal critical race theory, it's about the human experience, and it brings to life the humanity of all people. So we don't need to hide it if we accept the humanity of all people. And that's on the right now. We have to decide if we're going to go backwards or we're going to go forward with truth, because hiding history is just a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely, absolutely. Michael, I really appreciate this. This is so powerful for me. I'm just wondering, I'm thinking about Kai has said that she committed to an interview. And of course, I'm going to do all the interviews of everybody separately, like I did with you. Um, Wendy she accepted. And of course, Lone Wolf, he thinks it's going to be live. So I'm going to probably have to do a live piece with him because he already started putting promotions about it. Um, so I guess my question to you is: would you have another opportunity if you can give me some dates where all of us, Kai, Nettie, listen, I'm two in one. Nettie, which was the
Mhm.
actor of Kai, and Lone Wolf, if there's a time that we can all come together.
I
Uh,
will clear my schedule for you
oh wow,
as long
that'd
as
be
I'm in the country. As
awesome.
long as I'm in the country, I will clear my schedule for you.
Okay, and let me just show you a little bit more of your stuff. I'm just
Wow.
That's incredible, man. That's look at Raymond playing
Yeah.
low. Yeah. I mean that this was incredible stuff. I'm just
Yes,
proud, and I'm
yes.
so glad we shot this in 16 millimeter film. So this is not
Yeah.
no video, no digital HD or
Mhm.
what is the other one? High def. This
Right.
is
The
shot with,
real deal.
I think we had
Art.
like 3 or 4 takes of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that was incredible. And this was, and we took a long shot of it. It was like, we did all angles. And this is look at this. I'm just gonna let you look at this. This was just like unbelievable. You and Lone Wolf. Wow. Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome sauce. Woo, 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 woo. All right, I'm gonna end this. So Michael, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
throw out some dates for me because I know you've got stuff to do, etc. Um,
I'm pretty open. Like I said, as long as I'm in the country, like I'm going to be leaving country. So yep, tell me, I'll work with you. I've right now I'm planning to go to Africa, back to South America. That's where I was last year, and so just tell me, and I will work around it. I will figure it out. You tell me when you want to do it, and I'll try to make it happen.
okay, awesome, awesome. And just to this last thing, this is a scene where you were teaching. Remember, you were teaching Nettie how to read. You remember this scene?
Yeah,
Stephen had to get it right. He was a professional cinematographer,
nice.
and that was. Come on now, I just wanna.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, that's when the thing came rolling down. Anyway, that's the end of. That's the end of it. Well, okay, Michael. So, if you have any, do you have any other comments that you want to share, or?
Just that I would love to see everybody again or talk to them in any capacity. It was a great experience, a life changing experience, and it's it was like going to a school of life, and its impact I think will continue as people see the film and the documentary about the film.
Well, the other thing, this all came out of me being a little girl sitting around the table on Harrishaw Street in Dorchester, Mass, when my grandfather and the elders were talking about the fact that we were related to Native Americans. And then there was absolutely nothing when as a kid, I was confused because I watched John Wayne movies. I used to love Westerns, and all the Indians look white. And the history books, they look white. So it
Hmm.
wasn't, so it was that quest for
Well,
information.
those John Wayne movies, those Indians were white.
Exactly.
They
My
didn't want to.
point.
They didn't even hire real Indians to play the
No,
Indians.
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And it was just so interesting. And now I understand why they wanted to not um, sort of historically let us know that we were around, not even, we were around many, many moons before any settlers, before we were we actually created the Native Americans with the
Mhm.
Asian explorers. And people don't
Mhm.
realize that. But come to my lecture, which is going
Okay.
to be February 22nd.
Sounds
So,
great.
yeah, and I'll actually send you a flyer. But you're looking good, Mike. Thanks so much. And
Uh,
somebody's calling me.
it's
No,
all right.
that's okay. That's okay. But listen, I just want to say thank you, and I'll be in touch. And I'm going to
Okay.
get a time frame from Lone Wolf and the rest of the folks. Let me let you answer
Awesome.
the phone. All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye, Mike.
Bye bye.